Welcome to the Devon Corner, where we discuss the world's most practical breed of cattle and the role they play in different production systems around the globe. You think I had that down at this point, but we'll roll with it anyway. You guys know my spiel. It's all about Devon cattle here, and nothing's off limits. Excited. We have the new Red Devon USA president, Bob VanKirk, with us. Congratulations, Bob. Thanks for joining us. As always, my co-host, Steve Montgomery. Thank you, Steve. You want to start us with a blessing, brother?
Yeah, I sure will. Father, thank you for this morning. Thank you for the chance to be here on a podcast with two friends and to talk about Bob's life and what's happened in it recently and his journey in Devon cattle. Thank you for the animals that brought us together and the people that we're connected with as a result, and the ways in which we get a chance to share life together and build businesses around these animals that are practical and beautiful and fun to raise and produce nutritious and healthy beef for the customers we serve. Thank you for Bob's business, Four Seasons Farm, and the journey he's been on, and for Red Devon USA and the opportunity to work together with these two guys and a fantastic board around us that we can be friends with and we can spur each other on to great things. Thank you for Bob's leadership, for Jeremy's leadership, and most of all, thank you for you, and that we get to recognize that you lead us all. We praise you and thank you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Hey, one thing I wanted to say before we get started is I figure you guys have the hats. So
Dr. Jones.
I wanted to wear mine. This is actually my wife's. I pulled it out of the closet since I don't have a hat as big as yours. But there you go.
There's nothing worse than a cowboy with a hat too small for his head.
Well, I'm back to the ball cap.
Actually, I got to give Steve a shout out. We had an election, and all these things are, hidden votes and stuff. And it comes down to who's going to be our next president. And I was pumped. We got Steve and Bob both talking about it. Steve was so moved by Bob's preparation and excitement that he holds up his phone and he voted for Bob. And I have never seen in any election anybody do that. Speaks a lot to your character and putting Red Devon USA first. And so it's all about Bob today, but little shout out to Steve. That was
absolutely. And I'll definitely be picking Steve's brain as we go forward.
Well,
that's it, man. We got such a gifted board and such a great group, and keeping everybody working and motivated. And Bob, you've had a roller coaster. You've been president before, and now you're coming around for a second term. And what's your vision for Red Devon USA? When you took over the first time, you inherited a mess. We were trying to get away from a registry company that we did not have a good relationship with, CLRC. I don't know why I'm being polite. We bust on people here, but just didn't work for us with CLRC, the Canadian Livestock Records Corp, and we were looking for a new place to go, and didn't have a whole lot of extra money in the budget. And anyway, you inherited a house on fire the first time and did a great job. This time, you've got a great board, you've got a great cattle market, and sky's the limit. So tell us your vision and plans, please.
Yeah, I think that's one of the exciting things about coming on this term. Is the first time was 2 years focusing on getting our registry transferred, and the costs associated really buckled us under for a little while. So this time is extremely exciting. We're in the hottest cattle market of my lifetime, and Devon's, the excitement about them is just incredible. I mean, I just had a buyer call one to buy 500 cows. I mean, when you got that kind of excitement about Devon's, and the reason is they want to start a grass-fed operation and they know how they perform. So it's fun to walk into this. We've got a great board, as you guys mentioned. Everybody is a team, and everybody has different strengths. And so we're going to try to work on a lot of different things. We want to make sure we're engaging with our membership. We want to make sure we're meeting any challenges they have. We want to know what we're doing well and continue to do that. We want to make the registration process as easy as possible. I mean, that's one thing I think people need to think about. And I know Jeremy and I have talked about it some, but why register? There's a lot of good reasons, and I hope we'll get into that. But that's one thing. I'd like to see membership grow. I'd like to see registrations grow. And there's multiple reasons. It's a benefit to the producer, but it's also a benefit to this breed that we all have learned to love.
100%. 100%. Well, as well as becoming the new president, you received the Stewart Fowler Award. Stewart was a mentor of mine and a great man in our breed. For those that don't know, he taught ag at different universities around the country. He was the inventor of the adjusted 205-day weight, which was the birth of EBVs and EPDs. And obviously the Devon organization didn't run with that. Angus took it and ran with it, but age of dam adjustment on it, all came from him. He was visionary and a leader in our breed. I know I was moved to receive that award, but what did that award mean to you?
It was a surprise. I love this breed. I love this cattle. I mean, I've spent a lot of time focusing on it, but I think what it really brought home was that other folks see the passion I have for these cattle, and they see the desire that I have to have them succeed, and the work that we all do to make them succeed. So it was touching for me that others are seeing what's going on, and that we all have a reason why we like this breed and want to see it succeed. So,
well, a question we always ask is for you to tell us your Devon story, and I think several things we've already touched on. Why register cattle? When I met you, you were essentially a commercial cattleman, started using some Devon genetics, and now you're hot on my heels for volume of animals and selling animals, and the reputation of Four Seasons Farm has grown. And why did you start registering cattle? What is it about Devon cattle that made you shift all your attention to one breed when you had been doing other things before? I see the Hereford cow in the picture behind you. Obviously your family had history with Hereford, but let me be quiet and you tell us your story of where you came from and to today as Devon president.
Yeah, well, just a little bit of history. I mean, I grew up, my dad had a herd of 150 registered Herefords, and they were built more like the Devon's, more moderate frame, deep body. I mean, this was the 70s, 80s. And so they were the type of, I don't see too many Herefords that look like the Herefords we had, but I see pictures of my dad, and they don't have the frame. Like they've adjusted the Herefords to have frames like the Angus to fit the commercial market now. So, but yeah, so that was kind of my history. And I started, it was actually Gerald Fry was at a conference, and he was talking about Red Devons, and it intrigued my interest. And I really liked the idea of just grass finishing, getting away from the commercial grain feedlots and such. And so I did my own research after that, and I started with Devon bulls and crossed them with some black baldies and some Herefords. And I was just impressed with the Devon bull, how easy they were to work with, gentle, easy. And then I was obviously getting hybrid vigor as well. But I really liked what I saw in these bulls. And so I just started building my herd from there. And I'm at the point now where I'm probably 90, 95% all Red Devons now.
That's awesome. And speaking of Devon bulls, congratulations. You had the national champion, Four Seasons Moose. Um, he's a fantastic bull. We'll get a picture of him up here for those that are watching on YouTube. But he was a spectacular animal. In fact, I've already talked to you about some semen from him. So congratulations. Steve, what do you? I've monopolized the beginning here with all of our housekeeping stuff.
No,
What do you got for Bob in relationship to Red Devon USA and the
well, I mean, I'm kind of maybe two lines, Bob. One is um, your journey in Devon cattle has taken maybe a different approach than mine. You know, I kind of stayed in the downstream from Bud Chonko, Pine Top, and just kind of worked on one line, whereas you kind of spread and pulled a bunch of different things together. So talk about the maybe the real kind of boosts that you had in that journey. Like where are the like if you were to run your timeline out, where are the points along the way that you're like that one really made a difference for me, or that one set me back a bit, or just where are the rises and falls in your story? And then the second one is who are the people along the way that kind of came alongside of you that really helped to bring you to kind of where you're at and shape the way you see things the way you do now. You've talked about your dad a bit. I'm sure there's a lot of influence there, but who else?
Yeah, I mean, actually, Bud Chonko, which got you started, was actually my first Devon breeder that I was in contact with.
Huh.
So, and he's obviously only a half hour away from me, so he's fairly close. So,
Mhm.
yeah, Bud was definitely influential, and I could see how he really liked this breed. I mean, it's there. You can see how he liked how they worked and how easy they were to work with and all that. So he was a big one. But I mean, I talked to a lot of people over the phone. I've bounced stuff over the phone with Jeremy a lot throughout the years. I mean, we talk about different things we see, different traits, different bloodlines, and I mean, obviously Jeremy's been at it a long time, so that's been a big help. And a lot of times I think we agree probably 90% of the time, which is nice too. We're seeing the same things, so that's a big plus. But I can name like 20 different Devon breeders that I've all interacted with. It's more over the phone than anything else, but
Hmm.
there's been different times when different bulls have been brought in by other breeders. I guess one thing you brought a good point about genetic lines. I'm not like stuck on one line, and it does focus me back to when Vic Edwards and Allison were over here judging, and they were going through the animals from head to tail and looking at every aspect of that animal. And they said when they're picking a bull to either maintain or improve something on a cow. And I really thought about that with my herd. What bull will improve my cows, and which direction do I want to go? And I'm a believer in, it makes sense to have genetic diversity in your herd. I don't want to get where I'm getting inbreeding suppression. There's some great line breeders out there, but that's not an easy thing to do. And that's a decade long or more process, and you're going to run into some bumps along the way. So I prefer to have crossbreeding, but I guess it's kind of my personality too. I don't have to reinvent uh, the wheel, to say to speak. If somebody brings a bull in this country and it has some attributes that I want to put in my herd, I have no problem reaching out and using it. So I do have a mix. I have genetics from Jeremy. I have some that Jenny Carl's brought in from Montana. The Walkers brought in some genetics that I have in my herd. Dave Collier and George Keppel brought Applewood Josh down from Maine. That was a bull that his dam was 18 years old when he was born. And that whole herd almost all went to auction. And the only reason he was saved, they were going to use him for oxen. And he had one horn that turned a little bit different than the other, so they didn't use him as an ox. And he ended up, but just some really old genetics that are back in the herd, and that's in Moose's pedigree. And that's a bit of excitement I have too, is there's Moose. He's mostly old American genetics, and he can perform with, stuff from overseas. But then there's some great stuff from overseas as well. So I think it's an exciting time with Devons and the diversity that we do have. And there's a lot of farms doing different things. No one has, the whole market on genetics. There's a lot of diversity there. But I don't know, does that answer your questions? Or you have anything else, Steve?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, that does answer my question a lot. And I'm curious if there's a bull that you sold or cut, maybe, that you're like, dang, I really missed on that one, or I should have gone this way and I went that way. Are there what parts in your story where you look back and you go, that was a decision I wish I hadn't made, or something?
That's actually a great question. And I think, and you see a lot of breeders, they'll have a bull for 2 years and then they get rid of it. They shift to something else. And I have done that too. I mean, I would throw the Applewood Josh bull as one that I wish I had used more. I have daughters of his that are, 8, 10 years old now, and they're some of my best cows. And moderate frame, great udders, longevity. I wish I had used him more and had more of his daughters. But I mean, that's kind of what I'm trying to do now. Is I really think Moose is going to be a good producer, and I have the Sir Perfection bull as well, with completely different lines. I want to hold on to them for a while and get daughters in my herd that I can build off of too. So I think getting rid of a good quality animal too quick before you really know what you have has been some mistakes I've made, and I'm working on changing that now.
I think we all have done that. I mean, they taste really well, but once you get to that point, we're a little bit late. So yeah, good, good. That's
Yeah.
also
And Josh, when he kept going, I mean, Bill Picken had him up in Michigan. I think he was 18 when he finally died.
mm,
Amazing.
Yeah, traveled and used and still longevity. Um, yeah, that's fantastic. Well, speaking of longevity and traits, what is it again about Devon's? If you had to pick one trait to focus on, what is the best thing about this? Again, the world's most practical breed of cattle. I love that statement because it's very broad, but it's so true. Devons are just easy animals in so many ways. But what is it that sold you?
Yeah, I do like that word easy, but I don't know. I kind of lump two things together every time I think of them, and that's docility and performance on grass, because that's what we're doing. And those two really stand out to me because if you've ever had cattle that are wild that won't stay in polywire, I bought some Angus calves one time. I had them for 3 months. I couldn't take it anymore. I loaded them up on a trailer and took them to the auction. I took a beating on them and I didn't care. I felt good actually afterwards. So they just ran all over everywhere. So I think people underestimate that docility, and Devons in general are very docile animals, easy to work with. I'm impressed too with how the bulls, when they're 6, 8, 10 years old, sometimes bulls become a little ornery. I don't see that with the Devons. So they look at us as something different. I don't know. Maybe it's because we've had 400 years of working these cattle that I'm guessing if they had something, the Pilgrims had something that was a little wiry and kept running off, it probably ended up in the freezer pretty quick. So I think the ones that were left were probably easy to work with.
Probably ate it on the boat on the way over.
Yeah, that's true. That's probably true too.
Barbecue if you don't calm down in corral number 4. Um,
But that term easy, you said, Jeremy, I think is key. I mean, they're easy to work with, they're easy to finish, they're easy calving, they're easy to do whatever you want to do with them. That's huge.
it is.
I mean, I see people with busted up gates and stuff, and they're like, this is like every time we work our cows. It's like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to have animals like that. So,
Yeah, and the gates used to be $70. Now they're like $220 for the heavy metal ones. Like
oh, yeah.
destroyed infrastructure is an expensive proposition, and God forbid somebody gets hurt. But It's amazing how many people still work with wild and crazy cattle. Um, yeah, it's nuts. Well, let's talk about and Bob had requested that we try to do a half hour podcast and do a couple of do like a session 1, 2, and 3, or 1 and 2, or we'll see where it goes. But and we're game. Me and Steve are we making this thing up as we go. So um, we're going to try that. So before we wrap up session 1, let's get into that. Why register Devon cattle? I'm a breeder, and you've called me up and said, "Hey, Jeremy, why notice you're not registering calves? You got 20 cows and haven't registered in 2 years." And I say, "Yeah, I don't see the value. It's not worth my time." What do you tell that guy?
Yeah, I think that's a great discussion. And I know we got into a little discussion on social media, but I mean, I'm seeing it more and more. I just had a breeder call. They were selling animals that were registered, and they're getting calls left and right. I mean, these were 12-year-old cows, and they were getting multiple calls. I mean, this was a group put together like $100,000 package, and they were getting lots of calls. And I'm seeing the demand for the registered seed stock to be a lot higher. It gives you predictability. You know what your lineage is when you're crossing back with those cows. And the bottom line is, if you have great animals, you've just eliminated a lot of buyers. My would be one of them. I would assume Jeremy would probably be another one. Or if you are a buyer, you're probably going to pay a couple $1,000s less for a great animal than you are for a registered animal that's a quality animal. So I think that's one of the big areas that people miss the boat. And it's like people were selling meat and getting great prices, maybe getting more for their meat than they were for seed stock. And so they quit registering. And now I think some of them are probably a little disappointed. They're thinking, man, maybe I should have kept up with this, because instead of getting 3 or 4 thousand for this finished beef, I could be getting 6 or 8 for a great heifer, and so there's some money left on the table there. But I mean, everybody's business is a little different, but there's a lot of value in seed stock, and there's a shortage. I mean, when someone calls up with 500, wanting 500 Devon cows, I can send them to Jeremy, I can send them to Steve, I can send them to me, and I can send them to 20 other breeders, and they're not going to fill their orders. The reality of it. So, and
Yeah.
Jeremy, you had some good comments on social media. You want to add to that?
Yeah, well, I think there's a bunch of reasons. I'm going to throw it back at Steve first, though. Steve? What are your thoughts on what are you telling that guy if you're making the call?
I mean, I think that the future of where we're moving with some of the neogen DNA testing and I mean, this is going to really become more of a management tool than we even begin to see at this point. Like that identity profile, the gene profile is what I'm talking about, and like what bulls have what traits that we see on the hoof, but we like when you can make those decisions and say this is a son of that bull and this is a daughter of that bull and that cow, and I mean I think that's really important, and it gives us more controls to be able to make more management decisions. I mean, I think you told me one time, Jeremy, that if you use a bull that can put a pound of gain more per day on your calves, the cost that you get over the 20 calves or 30 calves that you have, you're actually paying for that bull plus more. And then your quality of beef, you're developing your customer, base that like can't believe how good the beef is because the beef quality is there. It just these are compounding decisions, and I think we take them lightly, and we don't necessarily see. I hear the thing, you can't eat the papers, and you're right, you can't. Well, I mean, you could, but it's not awesome. But but like those papers tell us a lot in the story of where this animal came from and what it was raised on, and all this other stuff matters. I mean, the epigenetics of things are part of that story too, that we just are just starting to understand as I mean, I am. let me speak for myself. You two guys, you probably understand it in and out. But like that kind of thing is like, it gives me more levers to pull whenever I'm making decisions that I think is really important. Plus, it supports the organization. It keeps the whole of the herd and the community of Devons kind of interconnected and woven together. And you can see where things are moving and trends are going. And I mean, there have been three bulls I've been in Devon cattle since 2010, so 15 years. And I've been to many national shows, and it's inevitable. I'll walk up to a pen at one of these shows and I'll see a cow that I'm like, wow, man, is she beautiful? And I look at the pedigree, and in those pedigrees are consistently similar like bulls or similar lines out of certain bulls. And we'll just leave it at that because that's like a trade secret. Learn it for yourself, kind of thing. But it's there, and you go, hey, this matters. And so I want to be able to, I want all of us to be able to highlight and say there. And if you need to know who those three bulls are, call me or DM or whatever, and Jeremy will tell you. So there you go. So have at it.
No, I think I love your point, especially about epigenetics. And, it makes me think, before DNA, people were using their judgment as to who they thought this calf was out of and that calf was out of. And when DNA came, it was pretty eye-opening that even the most honest men of integrity, mistakes are made. And then you judge that bull based on his calves. And if you're judging on the wrong calves or a mixture of calves, it skews the whole thing. So, your comments make me think we have better information now than our predecessors. We should make genetic progress and decisions faster. But I made the comment to Bob the other day, to me, registering cattle is like paying your taxes, right? If you want to live in a community with good schools and good roads and hospitals and all these things that we need, you got to chip in. You got to pay your bit. And personally, Devon cattle have put dishing on my house, sent my kids to school, put food on my table. I'm appreciative to these animals, and they give their lives to give us sustenance. And they've provided for my family, so I'm appreciative of them. I want to treat them kindly and equitably, but I want to see the organization go right. We can have better software if more people are registering cattle. We can have more education, a better website, better promotion, and one of you guys said before, people don't have any problem selling meat, so they don't run ads. They just keep selling what they got. Why am I gonna run an ad when I sell out of hamburger anyway? Well, to promote the breed, to give a little bit back. And I don't think that's such a bad thing. I think people need to decide what they are. Are you just in it for when people call me and they want to get cattle, or are you doing this because you just want to produce healthy grass-fed beef for your family or your community or a restaurant or whatever it is? If so, I don't know that you really need to register or not. Tracking things and information is only going to help. But if you're interested in being a seed stock producer, if you're interested in being part of the Devon story, the oldest British breed on record, the first breed brought to North America, first domesticated breed anyway. It's then you register some cattle, you become a member, you become a breeder, you get on the breeders list, you run ads in the magazine. Our magazine, the Angus Journal, is a much bigger publication with a lot more information, but 98% of them are thrown in the trash afterwards. 98% of the Devon magazines that go out go on somebody's shelf in their office, and they become part of their Devon history in their library. It's just a different thing. And so I think that's why you do it. Tracking it registrations and pedigrees is a huge part of it. But um, there's also the camaraderie. We got a great group of people, and unfortunately, the grass-fed, natural, organic marketplace is full of snake oil salesmen and and I'm not saying every Devon breeder is a model citizen, but for the most part, I mean, you go spend the day with these people, and I challenge that you will never be as accommodated and welcomed, and it's just a great group and a community. So I want to kick it back to you, Bob. You've listened to
Just a couple points, while we were talking, I was thinking of one thing. Devons will work everywhere. I mean, I've sold Devons in the South, and I've sold Devons to Canada, and I've had Devons go to Montana, and I know you guys have sent them all over the place, and they work everywhere. They work well. But I would also say it doesn't hurt to know what their pedigree is. There's certain lines work better in the South than there are. So it's good to know what you have. And another issue you have is I have a herd of commercial Devons. I want to get a bull. And you ask, what's your genetics? I don't know. So then they say, I got it from Lakota Ranch. And it's like, okay, that's one of 50 bulls. So, I mean, you try to kind of figure out to get a bull that will fit what they have. But bottom line is you're shooting in the dark somewhat. The other thing, I think, why register? With us, it's another stream of money. We have our meat business. We have our seed stock business. We sell 20 bulls every year. We sell semen. We're having requests for embryos. I don't know about you guys, but more money is not bad. So if I can get more money for seed stock, I'd rather. I mean, is it easy? I think that's something else that was brought up on our board call the other day. People say I can't sell seed stock. Well, you got a great website for meat. You spend hours talking to people. You put tons of money in your website for your meat business. Well, you know what? When you sell seed stock, you got to do work too. It's not just doesn't happen. So, but I think that's a big thing.
Seed stock right now. Probably something wrong with your cattle or your approach.
People don't know you have them. That's the only reason you won't be able to.
Yeah.
Well, I got to plug. We're going to put this podcast out quick because Bob's the new president. We want to get his message out to our membership. But two that we've already recorded that are getting ready to come out. One is Enrique Garcia and Joel and Javier Buenavides. And you talk about Devon's working anywhere. The videos are going to kill you. You see this desert and cactus and sagebrush, and then these cattle start coming out, these Devon cross animals. And you're like, what are they feeding them over the hill? Like, just incredible the shape they're in. The other is Dale Fryer, who's this amazing milking Devon breeder that hosted on the World Devon Congress, and he's collecting data. And I mean, two opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Range cattle in the hottest part of the world and dairy cattle up in the north. Show me another breed that can do that. I mean, I don't think it exists.
With predictability.
With predictability and longevity.
Right.
And docility and gourmet quality grass-fed beef.
You got it.
I mean, it's butter, baby. Well, let's wrap up session one. Closing comments, Steve?
No, I'm excited, Bob, for your leadership. It's fun to hear your vision. I think that the opportunities we have as a breed and as breeders, as friends, to really kind of keep teaching each other, spur each other on, is huge. And I'm thankful that you're kind of at the controls for this part of the journey. So
thanks for your support.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Any closing comments, Bob?
Yeah, I would like to say, I mean, I am humbled in this position. I mean, it's been the year. I mean, to get the Stewart Fowler Award was just incredible to us. That even felt better to me than getting the Grand Champion Bull, although I'm not complaining about that. And then to get the leadership role here, I'm just so excited about where we are in this market and with this breed. And so, I mean, I'm humbled to be here. I would ask you, please reach out if there's anything we can do. If you go to RDUSA, Red Devon USA website, there's the board members there. Reach out to folks. Give us input. Tell us what we're doing good, what we could do better. We want to make this breed as successful as possible. So appreciate everyone's support.
Well, thank you, Bob, for your leadership. And I went to a conference once, and for 3 days, the only thing I took away was this one speaker got up and said, volunteer organizations are dysfunctional by nature. And that resonated with me. And it's so true. I mean, always in these situations, you have good-hearted, good-intended people, but then they go home and they got jobs and families and other things that have to take priorities. And so to give of your time and energy and expertise is huge. And I thank you for it, Steve. I thank you for your partnership, leadership in this organization as well. And we will wrap up and look forward to session 2. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.